So hello everyone, we are now on the lesson 7, the 6 linked traits in human. But before that, we are from the big team deepers. So, the intended learning outcomes. So at the end of this lesson, you will be able to first describe some 6 linked traits in humans. Second, compare and contrast 6 limited traits and 6 influence traits. And third, make an inference on 6 limited traits. But before that, just a short question before discussing this lesson. So don't be worried, I'll be the one to answer. So have you observed that most bald people are men? Why do you think less women experience such? So let me answer this one first. So bald is having a scalp wholly or partly lacking hair. Muna giingon nga atras buhok abante agtang, diba? So baldness is a androgenic alopecia that is more common among males because baldness is linked with androgens, a male sex hormones that is responsible for regulating hair growth. Baldness can be genetically inherited. So if your family has history of baldness, then the possibility of baldness is high. So liwat-liwat jud siya sa atong giliwatan maong usually baldness occurs in adult or old years of age, but remember it can begin in teenage years too. Di gyud ta makaingon nga di pala kita ana kay batan-on pa ta. Ayaw ka kay walay gipili kung mao pa batag dili. So females also suffer from hair loss too, but their hair will not completely bald, they just go thinner. So unlike sa boys, ang sa bai magkanipis ra siya. Kani nga problem usually occurs after menopause sa bai. So why am I telling you this? For you to be aware. And I have some preventions to this baldness also. So first, less usage of hair chemical products like pomade and hair wax. So pwede ra mo gamit pero limited ra gyud. Dili pod maayo permintihon, di pod maayo daghanon. Para di pod ta maupaw. So the second one is healthy and balanced diet. Eat foods contains with vitamin D, zinc, iron, protein, og omega-3. So nahimo na kung Kuya Kim ani. So thus among the questions will be answered in this lesson. So 6 linked traits in human. 6 linked is a trait in which a gene is located on a sex chromosome. Among humans, this term generally refers to traits that are influenced by genes and on the X chromosomes. So sex chromosomes form one of the 23 pairs of the human chromosome in each cell. So female inherit for X from the father genotype XX, and for the male inherit for Y from father for the XY genotype. The X and Y chromosomes is also known as a 6 chromosome. So the human X chromosomes has at least 115 genes with no counterpart on the Y chromosome. So these genes influence traits that show the following characteristics. So the first one is these traits cannot be transmitted from male to male. So normal, it should be male and female. The X and Y chromosomes is partner for these traits. The male traits will be transmitted to female one. Unsaon pagbuo og laki ra puros? Di ba? Og bae pud tanan di pud pwede ning samot. Bae og laki jud ang tandem to produce offspring so that it will be transmitted. So the second one, we have females who are the carriers of these genes is one of their X chromosomes and have the 50% of passing them to their offspring. So by producing to this one, there's a half chance that they can produce offspring and they will be met. So females who are the carriers of these genes is one of the X chromosome. So the last one is we have fathers will pass on the genes to their daughters who will be carriers of these genes which will show up in their son. So that's why naatay pagkapareho sa atong ginikanan. So just like sa complexion, attitude, shape sa naong, or ka-joker ba na, guban pa. So these are traits that will show us from our parents. So naa-joy maliwatan. So makaingon dayon tanong nga, Bradyo kag imong papa day, bradyo kag imong papa dong. So pariha mog mata, pariha mog tingog, pariha mog ilong, ana. That's it.
Okay, we have 6 linked traits. There are 3 types of sex-linked traits. By the way, the 6 linked traits is a trait which is a gene is located on the sex chromosome. In human, the term is generally refers to the traits that are influenced by genes on the X chromosome. This is because the X chromosome is large and contain many more genes than the smaller Y chromosome. The first is the hemophilia. The genes that regulates the production of factors 8 and 9 are found in the X chromosome. Hemophilia is usually an inherited bleeding disorder in which the blood does not clot properly. This can lead to spontaneous bleeding as well as bleeding following injuries or surgery. Blood contains many proteins called clotting factors that can help to stop the bleeding. Such case is known as hemophilia, which is characterized by bleeding in the molecules and joints and may be creeping. It affects males. It's very rare in females. Treatment for hemophilia consists of avoiding trauma and administering injection of clotting factors protein from the blood of healthy individuals. The second one is the color blindness. Another X-linked gene is responsible for normal color vision. The dominant allele produces the normal color vision, while the recessive allele causes color blindness. The color blindness is one form of which is inability to tell the difference between red and green. People with this condition see this color as shades of brown. The condition is more frequent among males than in females. So when we say color blindness, it is a generic condition caused by difference in how one or more of the light-sensitive cells found in the retina of the eye respond to the certain colors. These cells, called cones, sense wavelengths of light and enable the retina to distinguish color between.
So males have one X chromosome. Thus, if the chromosome carries the gene for color blindness, they will be colorblind. Females, on the other hand, have two X chromosomes. Males have only one X chromosome because it fully expresses an X-linked disorder, while the females who have two X chromosomes because it will be carriers of the defect on the majority cases and they are usually asymptomatic. But in color blindness, it is more common in men.
Autosomal sex-related certain traits are more commonly found in one sex than in the other. Such traits are expressed not only by genes found in one sex chromosomes but also in the autosomes. These come in either sex-limited or sex-influenced traits. So, now, there are the example of sex traits. Examples of secondary sex characteristics in human include shorter stature and wider pelvis, breast development and more fat in the thighs, and buttocks in females, and broader shoulders, greater muscle mass, more facial and other body hair, and baldness in males. So now, here are the similarities and difference of sex-limited traits and sex-influenced traits. Sex-limited traits are traits that are visible only within one sex. For instance, barred coloring in chickens normally invisible only in the rosters. Sex-linked traits would be considered traits like sickle cell, anemia, and color blindness, while sex-influenced traits are autosomal traits that are influenced by sex. If a male has one recessive allele, he will show that trait, but it will take two recessive for the female to show. One such as baldness. A lot of sex-limited traits can determine parental carries by using a pedigree. Sex-limited traits are determined by genes located on autosomes and expressed only in one sex, while these traits are responsible considerably for sexual dimorphism. Sex-influenced traits do not show distinctive expression between women and men.
Sex-limited traits refers to those which are limited to only one sex due to anatomical differences. Such traits affect the structure and function of the body of males or females only. These traits are controlled by sex-linked or autosomal genes. When the traits are physically expressed in one sex only, that is known as a sex-limited trait, but the gene is present in both the sexes. In the presence of hormones, sex-limited genes are activated. These are autosomal traits. In the presence of androgens or male hormones, the birth-controlling gene is activated. That means the secondary sexual character like birth present in male human beings and absent in female human beings is due to the absence of androgen hormones. Examples of these are genes for milk production among females only and bird growth, which is limited to men. As we know, the milk secretion gene are present in male and female, both the sexes, but only milk is created from female. The sex-limited trait is autosomal. That means genes are not present on the X or Y chromosomes. That is expressed only on. As we know, the milk secretion genes are present in male and female, both the sexes, but only milk is secreted from female. The sex-limited trait is autosomal. That means genes are not present on the X or Y chromosomes. That is expressed in only one sex. The character is limited to only one sex or gender due to hormone difference or anatomical difference is known as the sex-limited trait. Another example of sex-limited trait is that only males can have prostate cancer and only females can have ovarian cancer, although both males and females can carry the genes for these conditions. Those traits would usually involve primary or secondary sex trait. Those traits would usually involve primary or secondary sex trait.
So what is sex-influenced traits? Sex-influenced traits are autosomal traits that are influenced by sex. If a male has one recessive allele, he will show that trait, but it will take two recessive for a female to show the same trait. One such trait is baldness. A lot of sex-limited traits can determine parental carriers by using a pedigree. It is a sex-limited genes that are present in both sexes of sexually reproducing species but are expressed in only one sex and have no penetrance or simply turned off in the other. In other words, sex-limited genes cause the two sexes to show different traits or phenotypes despite having the same genotype. A phenotypic characteristic or trait, such as a male pattern, baldness that are expressed differently in males and females, usually because its expression depends on androgens or estrogens, and that is controlled by a single gene that is dominant in males but recessive in females, so that men who inherit the gene from either parent lose here as they age, whereas women do so only if they inherit it from both parents and are thus homozygotes. So, sex-influenced traits are autosomal. It means that their genes are not carried on the sex chromosomes. This term is restricted to autosomal traits and should not be confused with sex-linked characteristics, which have to do with genetic differences on the sex chromosomes. So, the combination of alleles for pattern baldness will lead to different phenotypic expression depending on the sex of an individual. So, example of sex-influenced traits is baldness. Baldness can occur in both males and females. However, it is much more common in males. So, why is this? Because the pattern baldness trait is influenced by the hormone of testosterone. A sex-influenced trait is a trait controlled by a pair of alleles found on the autosomal chromosomes, but its phenotypic expression is influenced by the presence of certain hormones. So, sex-influenced traits can be seen in both sexes, but it will vary in frequency between the sexes or in the degree of the phenotypic expression.